I'll never forget the look on Karen's face when she realized she'd just called the cops on a regulatory attorney. The smug satisfaction melted from her features like ice cream on hot pavement as the officers walked away from me and toward her. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how one woman's power trip led to the complete dissolution of an entire HOA. The moving truck had barely rolled to a stop in front of my daughter Emily's new townhouse when I spotted her. Karen Pemberton, as I'd later learn, stood on her perfectly manicured lawn with arms crossed and lips pursed like she'd bitten into a lemon. I'd driven 4 hours to help Emily move into her first home, and we hadn't even opened the truck's rear door before trouble came marching over in designer sandals and a fluorescent pink tracksuit. "Excuse me," she announced in a voice that could strip paint. "You can't park that vehicle here without proper permits from the HOA board." Emily stepped forward with a friendly smile, extending her hand. "Hi, I'm Emily Dawson. I just closed on Unit 47 yesterday." Karen ignored the outstretched hand like it was contaminated. "I don't care who you are. That truck violates our community standards. You need authorization forms filed at least 72 hours in advance for any commercial vehicles." I set down the box I was carrying and kept my voice level. "We're just unloading some furniture and boxes. We'll be done in a couple hours." Karen whipped out her phone and started taking pictures. "Illegal activity in progress. Unapproved commercial vehicle. Potential damage to common areas." She narrated each photo like she was documenting a crime scene. Emily's excitement about her new home dimmed with each flash of Karen's camera. "Ma'am, I live here now. This is just my dad helping me move in." Karen's eyes narrowed to slits. "I am the HOA president, and I know every resident in Oakwood Commons. You are not on my list." She pulled out a leather-bound notebook and flipped through it dramatically. "No Emily Dawson. No Unit 47 closing. You're trespassing." I recognized the type immediately. 25 years in regulatory law had taught me to spot petty tyrants who confused a tiny bit of authority with absolute power. "My daughter closed yesterday," I said calmly. "The paperwork might not have reached you yet." Karen's face flushed red. "Are you calling me incompetent? I'll have you know I've run this HOA for 8 years without a single complaint." That was her first lie, though I didn't know it yet. "Nobody's calling you anything," I said, lifting another box from the truck. "We're just trying to move some furniture." She stepped directly in my path. "Put that box down immediately. I haven't inspected it for prohibited items." Emily looked at me with disbelief. "Prohibited items? Dad, it's just my kitchen stuff." Karen jabbed a finger at her. "Certain appliances require board approval. Microwaves over 1,000 watts. Blenders with noise levels exceeding 70 decibels. It's all in the covenant." She was making it up as she went along, another thing I'd prove later. But at that moment, I just wanted to get my daughter settled. "Look," I said, sidestepping her. "We're not trying to cause problems. Let us unload, and Emily can sort out any paperwork tomorrow." That's when Karen played her trump card. Or what she thought was her trump card. She dialed 911. "Hello, police. This is Karen Pemberton, president of the Oakwood Commons HOA. I need to report suspicious individuals loading unknown items into one of our units. Yes, I believe they're trespassing. One is an older man with an out-of-state license plate. Very threatening demeanor." I nearly laughed at threatening demeanor. I was wearing khakis and a polo shirt. But Emily looked genuinely worried. "Dad, should we stop? I don't want trouble on my first day." I patted her shoulder. "Don't worry, sweetheart. Let her call. We're not doing anything wrong." Karen smirked like she'd already won. The police take HOA violations very seriously in this town. I play golf with the chief every Sunday. Another lie, as it turned out. She stood guard by the truck, preventing us from unloading anything else while we waited. Other residents peeked out their windows, probably used to the Karen show by now. 10 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up. Karen practically skipped over to them, gesturing wildly at us. I couldn't hear her exact words, but her arms waved like she was directing aircraft. The officers approached us with professionally neutral expressions. "Sir, we received a report of trespassing and suspicious activity," the lead officer said. His badge read Sergeant Morrison. I nodded politely. "Officer, I'm helping my daughter move into her new home. She closed on Unit 47 yesterday. I'm Jake Dawson, and this is Emily." I handed him my driver's license. The second officer, a younger man named Ramirez, was studying my face. "Dawson. Jake Dawson. Wait, aren't you the attorney who took down that HOA in Riverside last year? The embezzlement case?" I smiled slightly. "That would be me, yes. I specialize in regulatory law and HOA governance issues." Sergeant Morrison's eyebrows rose. "No kidding? My sister lived in that neighborhood. You saved them from that corrupt board." He handed back my license and turned to Karen. "Ma'am, these people aren't trespassing. The daughter owns the unit." Karen's face cycled through several shades of red. "But they didn't file the proper permits. The truck is illegal. They're violating numerous covenants." Officer Ramirez pulled out a notebook. "Which specific laws are they breaking, ma'am?" Karen sputtered. "HOA rules are legally binding. They need board approval for moving vehicles." Morrison's expression grew tired. "Ma'am, HOA rules don't override property rights. They own the unit. They can move in. Unless they're actually breaking a law, not a covenant, there's nothing we can do." That's when I made my decision. "Officers, since you're here, I'd like to file a complaint. This woman is harassing us and preventing us from accessing my daughter's property." Karen's mouth fell open. "You can't file a complaint against me. I'm the HOA president." Ramirez's pen hovered over his pad. "Actually, he can. Are you preventing them from entering the property?" She backpedaled quickly. "I'm just ensuring compliance with community standards." Morrison sighed. "Ma'am, let them move in. If there are covenant violations, handle it through proper HOA channels. Not by calling 911. He turned to me. "Mr. Dawson, you're free to continue. If she harasses you again, call us directly." As the officers drove away, I saw something in Karen's eyes that should have warned her to back off. Instead, she doubled down. "This isn't over. I'll be reviewing every single item you bring into this community. One violation and you're out." I set down the box I was holding and pulled out my phone. "Actually, Karen, I think I'll be reviewing some things too. Starting with your HOA's governing documents, financial records, and election procedures." Her bravado cracked slightly. "Those are private HOA documents." I smiled my courtroom smile. "Not in this state, they're not. HOA records are subject to member review. And my daughter is now a member." Emily watched this exchange with growing interest. She'd heard my work stories but never seen me in action. Over the next 3 days, while Emily unpacked and settled in, I went to work. The first red flag was the HOA's website, which hadn't been updated in 3 years. The second was the absence of any published financial statements. The third was that nobody seemed to know when the last actual board election had been held. I started knocking on doors, introducing myself as Emily's father. The stories poured out like water from a broken dam. Illegal fines for grass being half an inch too long. Fees for unauthorized flower colors. Assessments that disappeared into vague administrative costs. And everyone mentioned that Karen had been president for 8 years without a single election. Mrs. Patterson in Unit 12 showed me a fine for $500 because her grandchildren's bicycles were stored improperly on her own porch. Mr. Singh in Unit 30 had been charged for flying an American flag without patriotic display permits. The Johnsons in Unit 19 paid $1,000 in emergency assessments that never resulted in any visible improvements. But the smoking gun came from Richard Thornton, a retired accountant in Unit 6. "I tried to review the books 2 years ago," he told me over coffee. Karen said they were being audited. Then she said they were at the accountant. Then she stopped returning my calls. He pulled out a folder. I've been keeping track of what I could find. The numbers don't add up. I spent hours reviewing his documentation. Missing funds, improper transfers, and worst of all, no record of any legitimate board election since 2016. Karen had simply appointed herself president when the previous board resigned and had been ruling ever since. By the end of the week, I had enough ammunition to take down a small government. But I waited for the right moment. It came when Karen sent Emily a violation notice for unauthorized window treatments. Her curtains were apparently the wrong shade of white. That's when I called for an emergency HOA meeting. The community center was packed. Word had spread that someone was finally challenging Karen. She sat at the board table alone, her usual cronies mysteriously absent. I stood up with a stack of documents that made a satisfying thud when I set them down. I moved to audit the HOA's financial records for the past 8 years. I began. Karen banged a gavel she'd bought herself. You're out of order. Only board members can make motions. I smiled. Actually, according to your own bylaws, which I have here, any member in good standing can propose motions at open meetings. Page 47, Section 3. She fumbled for her copy of the bylaws, clearly unfamiliar with her own rules. Furthermore, I continued, I move for immediate board elections, as there haven't been any since 2016. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. That's impossible, Karen shrieked. I've been duly elected every year. By whom? I asked. Where are the ballots? The vote tallies? The election notices? I held up more papers. I've obtained records from the Secretary of State. No HOA election filings for Oakwood Commons since 2016. The crowd grew louder. Someone shouted, She told us elections were suspended due to lack of interest. I pressed on. I also moved to review all fines and assessments levied in the past 5 years. According to state law, HOA fines must follow specific procedures. Public hearings, written notices, appeal processes. Karen, where are those records? Her face had gone from red to pale. Those are confidential HOA matters. Wrong again, I said, pulling out the state statute. All HOA financial records must be available for member inspection. Failure to provide them is a violation of state law. Not HOA rules. State law. Richard Thornton stood up. I second all motions. Mrs. Patterson followed. I third them. Soon, half the room was on their feet. That's when I delivered the killing blow. Given the serious irregularities uncovered, I move for the immediate dissolution of the Oakwood Commons HOA. The room exploded. Some cheered, some gasped, but nobody defended Karen. She banged her gavel frantically. You can't dissolve the HOA. I won't allow it. You don't have that power, I said calmly. According to your charter, dissolution requires a 2/3 vote of all members. Shall we vote? What followed was the most lopsided vote in HOA history. Out of 93 units represented, 87 voted to dissolve. 4 abstained. Only 2 voted against, Karen and her friend from Unit 8 who owed her money. As the results were announced, Karen's carefully constructed kingdom crumbled. She stood up, shaking with rage. This is illegal. I'll sue every one of you. You need me. Without the HOA, this place will fall apart. But nobody was listening anymore. They were too busy celebrating their freedom. The legal dissolution took another month, during which we discovered more financial irregularities. The district attorney opened an investigation into missing funds. Karen was forced to pay back $32,000 in illegal fines and unauthorized expenses. Her real estate license was suspended when the state board learned of her actions. She lost her job at a property management company when news of the scandal spread. The last time I saw her was at the final dissolution hearing. The judge confirmed the vote and officially ended the Oakwood Commons HOA. As the gavel fell, Karen let out a sound somewhere between a sob and a scream. 8 years, she wailed. "I gave 8 years to this community." The judge's response was brief. "Ma'am, you gave yourself 8 years of unauthorized power. Case closed."